My name is Ben Finio. I was a PhD student in the Harvard School of Engineering and Applied Sciences from 2007 to 2012. A graduate student in the micro-robotics lab, which works on mostly little tiny insect-sized robots, specifically on the RoboBee project, which we claim is the world's smallest flying vehicle, so it's about the size of an actual insect, working on actually getting all of the technology that's needed to have it flying around, just like a helicopter or an airplane in the long run. But as of when I left, and they're still working on it now, it's really just still flying around in a controlled laboratory environment. It's not actually out there yet. You know, the stories would come out about the RoboBee that say, oh, you know, government has little bugs on the wall spying on you, or these things are out actually flying around, that really greatly exaggerate and don't get into the technical details, that say things like, oh, there actually hasn't been a battery invented yet that is capable of powering this thing, so it's still attached to a power cord in the lab. You know, the popular media reports tend to skip over a lot of the technical details, mess up interviews. So I think for people who do want to read more about the details, but they're not in a university environment where they would have access to those journal subscriptions, you know, you go to the journal websites and it's like $30 to download a 6-page PDF, which is ridiculous for, I think, a U.S. taxpayer whose money is being channeled either through the National Science Foundation or the Department of Defense, or whatever funding organization it is. You know, I think ultimately you should be able to access that information somehow. So if you Google the title of one of my publications or RoboBee or the keywords of my thesis, you know, odds are the first Google page is going to be filled with my lab's website, my website, dash, and then, you know, maybe some of the actual journals and conferences that these things have been published in. So eventually you should be able to find a way to freely access it instead of having to pay $30. Putting this information out there online and is really important, especially with the whole funding situation. You know, like there have been, in robotics, there are occasional attacks where some senator comes out and rails against some robotics project that has a silly sounding title, so sounds like a waste of money if you only read the first 2 lines of the grant. But when you, like, for example, there was a towel folding robot, which to somebody not in robotics might just sound stupid, but it, you know, the purpose of the grant is to have rehabilitative and assistive robots for people like injured, you know, Iraq and Afghanistan war vets who have limb injuries and can't do a simple task like folding a towel because, you know, you've lost a hand, you lost an arm. And it turns out, you know, we don't give a lot of thought to doing simple tasks like that if you have both your hands, but that's actually remarkably complicated for a robot to do. So it's, you know, once you actually get that full explanation, it's really important and I think worth spending money on. But so I think, you know, it's really important not to just publish in your little academic circle where everybody's working on robots and everybody in that little bubble world thinks towel folding robots are important, because then it's very easy to be kind of taken aback when you hear the public complaining about it. You're like, you know, I've spent 5 years of my life on this. Of course it's important. But to people outside that world, you kind of need to explain, you know, why is it worth spending your tax money on this? So I think that's, in the long-term path for the U.S. with a lot of these attacks on science funding, a really important part of making your work freely available and being able to explain it to people outside of your field.
This video was produced by the Office for Scholarly Communication, a program of the Harvard Library.